All right, what's going on, everyone? You can tell by the title, we're going to talk about Fairy Tail today. I want to talk about Fairy Tail because it's kind of in limbo right now. I don't know what's going on with the anime. I can't remember any news about the anime. Obviously, 100 Years Quest, the manga is still going on. But I mean, it's kind of in limbo. Like, Fairy Tail manga fans really like it. Fairy Tail anime fans are, right? So yeah, it's in a weird place, and it's like weirdly relevant and relevant at the same time. Like, if you bring up Fairy Tail, everyone wants to talk Fairy Tail, right? It's just one of those anime that like hasn't really left the lexicon. But you know, it's not, you know, Black Clover, it's not My Hero, right? Although those are kind of entering the same space now. It's not, you know, it's not as mainstream, I guess, as it used to be, or as relevant as it used to be. And especially now that it's not as relevant, you'll have a lot of fans who say Fairy Tail was never that good, Fairy Tail's overrated, Fairy Tail's trash, this and that. So it's kind of in the same spot as Bleach was before Bleach got the 1,000 Year Blood War anime. Excuse me. Laxus Renji Fairy Tail is my favorite anime of all time. I think a lot of people feel that way, and that's kind of why I want to have this discussion today. A comparison of Akame ga Kill, excuse me, and Gate would be a good idea. Is Gate Steins Gate, or is that something different? I don't think I've ever heard of just Gate. We got Guns in chat. What's going on, Guns? How you doing? We got Toad Sage, Eden's, Fairy Tail, Magi, same animation style. I don't know what you mean by that. We got Justin. What's going on, Justin? I'm doing good, Justin. Thanks for asking. I was a little excuse me, I was a little depressed this weekend with the Patriots. Patriots lost pretty bad. But they could come back. How did the Bears do this weekend? I'm excited for any football fans, I'm excited to watch the Packers and the Commanders tonight. The JC stuff now. JC staff is focused on One Punch Man. Next season of Fairy Tail will be after One Punch Man. I mean, that much is obvious, but I don't really excuse me, I don't really know what's going on with Fairy Tail, the anime. I'm sure it'll come back, but JC staff, we got Natalie's Revenge just subscribed. Well, thank you, Natalie. Yeah, they're weird with their anime, right? Like Eden Zero, they did 2 seasons, I think, and then it kind of just fell off the face of the earth. I don't think there's any sign of a season 2 for Magia Lumiere, which a lot of people were looking forward to that. The anime didn't do that bad. It wasn't that popular over here. I hope you get better. You sick? No, my throat's just really dry today. I don't know why. I guess I just haven't been talking really much today, so that's why. Excuse me. So my apologies if it takes me a while to warm up during the stream. Who was Irene? Z King says Irene was my favorite character. I know that off the tip of my head. Oh, Irene was Erza's mother. Yeah, she's a cool character. She has a weird role in 100 Years Quest, for sure. Magic Lumiere already confirmed season 2. That's what I thought, but I couldn't remember. How long ago was that? Oh, this was a year ago. Oh, so this was right when the season ended. Okay, so ignore what I said. That was a big fat lie. Thank you, Edens, for putting me in check, exposing me for the fake anime fan that I am. JC Staff, known for their inconsistency. Well, let's talk about it. Let's pull up. July 8th it was announced. So then I have conflicting. It was announced this year. We can say this year. I think, when did it end? Did it end last December? Last winter? Still hoping for Eden Zero's second season to get an English dub. It doesn't even have a dub? That's crazy. Eden's is exposing me, telling everybody that I'm a fraud, which it's true. I'm a fraud. I don't actually like anime. I'm doing this for the clout. Next thing you know, I'll change my name to Shonen OG Reviews, and I won't actually review anime. I'll just post a bunch of anti-woke videos. If you know, you know. I think Fairy Tail's peak of popularity was, yeah, I'd say like 2014, 2015, around the time of the final season, or like right before that, I think it peaked. That was when like everyone wanted to know what was happening with Fairy Tail. Which series has the better first 200 chapters, Dandadan or One Piece? I would probably say that's really tough, only because they're from like two different eras. So they have two different approaches to their openings, to their like first sagas. One Piece is very much like OG 2000 styles, like Hunter x Hunter, like Shaman King. It very much takes its time to get into the story. Chapter 200 puts you around Dressrosa, or excuse me, not Dressrosa, Alabasta. So compared to Dandadan, I'd say by a split of a hair, One Piece, but Dandadan is like right there. And if you catch me on the right day, I might actually say Dandadan, but it's like right there. Music is a little loud. Sorry about that. Let me fix that. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, it did look a little loud. Yeah. Let me know how the music is now. Eden's again, putting me, hanging me out to dry. Dandadan's better than Alabasta. It's okay, OG, I'll say it. One Piece right now is on a different level of world building. What are your predictions for Steel Ball Run anime updates for September? I don't think they're gonna have a lot. I don't know. There could be news, but I gotta be honest, my expectations for Steel Ball Run are they are tempered. They're not nothing, but based on Dave Pro and what they've been doing over the last year or two, I'm iffy. I don't think it's gonna be bad, but my gut says it's gonna be kind of mid. Elbaf Arc is going crazy. I have thoughts about Elbaf too, but I want to stay on topic with Fairy Tail. Am I caught up on 100 Years Quest? No. I'm like halfway through. I used to be kind of caught up, but I haven't read the new chapters in like a year or two. So I'm probably like, I'll put it this way. Where I left off in the manga, they just got to is it Celeste? The like moon dragon? Is that her name? No. Opinions on the Blackmore arc, Steel Ball Run. Remind me, which one is that? I haven't read like all of Steel Ball Run in forever. I read the first few arcs a while back, but then I stopped. Celine. So I stopped reading like right when they got dropped into, well, excuse me, they got sucked into, I should say. They got dragged into Celine's world, realm, dimension, whatever it's called. So yeah, I would say that was where I stopped reading the manga. Fairy Tail getting so much heated reputation is because of competition, propaganda, Anitubers. It's definitely not helped by content creators for sure. I mean, you have a lot of like bot content creators who just like push the narrative that Fairy Tail is, you know, like shonen trash and it's overrated, it's not that deep, right? But that brings me to my point about why I think people who say that are usually massive hypocrites, but I want to keep up with chat here. Eden says, I haven't gotten into JoJo's, but I feel like Steel Ball Run is the one I've seen people hype up the most. So Steel Ball Run is probably the best arc in the manga. The problem is the way they released Stone Ocean was not good-ish, because if Stone Ocean had come out today instead of like whatever it was 2 years ago, it would have been fine. But they did the whole part 2, part 3 thing at the beginning of that when like nobody really knew what was going on, right? Kind of like Spy Family. So everyone really hated that they did that. But they'll probably do it again with Steel Ball Run. And I think that'll be fine. But it'll be like part of the bigger problem. There's the potential for it to get locked in Netflix jail. I don't think that's going to happen. Really, I think the big problem is just people are going to expect the animation to be like, you know, Madhouse level quality, right? And I think it's going to look about as good as the last season of Fire Force, which was not bad, but everyone agreed. Everyone was like, the fights just don't look that good. They look okay, but, you know, for final season expectations, doesn't really look that good. So, we'll see. It could be different. This could be where they change things, but I'm feeling so-so on it. On Judio's Quest has been hit or miss, as it's been going. I wish Dead Rock had been more of a conversation. Dead Rock is not that popular for a reason. It starts out, It's like, I don't think Mashima really knew what he wanted to do with that story when he started it. He started it while Eden Zero was still wrapping up, and while he was still storyboarding for 100 Years Quest, and I think he was still doing one of the side manga, like Pharmacia or that one mobile game manga. I can't remember. But I don't know if he said it, but it feels like for this one, he's gone back to his approach of Fairy Tail, where like, I'm just going to make shit up for every chapter. I haven't read the last like year or so of chapters, but I caught up to like chapter 30-ish, something like that. I got to where they had like the tournament. I forget what chapter that is, but it just feels like he really has no like roadmap for this manga, and he's just like kind of winging it chapter by chapter. That's what it feels like to me. Gate of Nightmares, that was the manga. Thank you, Dragon Force. I like Fairy Tail more than One Piece. I think a lot of people feel that way. Mostly Fairy Tail fans, but I don't think that's really as rare of an opinion as people would think. I've seen a lot of interesting videos where people explain why Fairy Tail isn't as bad as people say it is, and they make a lot of good points of view, like Just Stop, for example. Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about. Fairy Tail is fun and people act like it's not. Yes, that. I'm going to speak to that in a second. Fairy Tail gets hated for all the same things that they'll let damn near every other shonen get away with. Yes, exactly. My 3 favorite anime are Fairy Tail, Bleach, and Inuyasha. Cultured. What does that say about my taste in anime? You like the classics. You like upbeat, optimistic stories with cool powers and badass fights. Enough said. Anime Man was a huge hypocrite. He actually praised Eden Zero and then started to trash about it. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Anime Man. I feel like he flip-flops with his anime opinions, but he's alright. You talking about Dead Rock? Yeah, I'm not caught up. It's okay for what it is. I feel like it would have had way more potential if Mashima had like planned out the begin. The thing with Fairy Tail, the reason Fairy Tail works is because there is structure in the first, you know, third of the manga, I'd say. Even like the first 20% of the manga. So like there's a foundation before Mashima just decides to do whatever, right? Like the foundation is there. Dead Rock never feels like it had that foundation. Like it feels like from chapter 1, Mashima is just making every single thing up as he goes along. If only more YouTubers would cover Fairy Tail, it would get its hype back. Never say never. That's all I'm gonna say. Keep an eye out for this month's content. One of the funniest complaints about Fairy Tail is how it's not dark enough. I don't hate that take. I get what people mean when they say that. So Fairy Tail can get dark, right? Like the what's the Demon Guild? Shit, I can't remember the name. It's the EN excuse me, the END arc. Somebody in chat will tell me what the name is. Will I have updates for the next JoJo Lands chapter? I'll probably just read that on my own. Now that you bring it up, we might have to do a stream once I catch up just to talk about it. Tartaros, thank you, Tartaros. The Tartaros arc, hold that thought. JoJo Lands is good. It, as far as I've read, it has all of the potential to be better than Steel Ball Run, but yeah, it's too early to really cover it frequently, for me anyway. But Tartaros gets like really dark, like super dark, very heavy, a lot of like demon elements. And there are moments throughout the manga where like it gets pretty heavy. The issue is Mashima doesn't like to have a ton of consequences. So like he often like does like takes these backsies, right, on stuff like, oh, that character didn't actually die, or like, oh, you know, this character died, but this happened, right? Or like there's this big battle, but like only these characters died, right? So it gets heavy, but people want it to be, you know, like Kagurabachi. Like they want every character to die 10 chapters after they get introduced, and it's just not that story. I'm sorry. Do I think JoJo Lands will be the last part of JoJo? Well, Araki said like he's done after JoJo Lands, so I'm pretty sure he meant it when he said it. Ears are getting tortured alone was dark. Yeah, that whole arc is pretty heavy. I'm sure if I think I could think of I'm sure if I really think about it, I can come up with more moments. We got Dragon Super in chat. Hello, Dragon Super. How you doing today? All the other popular magic anime like Magi, Black Clover, and Seven Deadly Sins came out after it. Sort of. It's not like the first like magical anime. Obviously there was Rave Master, also Mashima. There was Sailor Moon, which would have come out, I think, before it. And like you also have Dragon Quest, The Adventure of Dai, that was 94. Pretty similar style, genre, right? Of course you also have stories like Berserk and Dragon Ball, so but I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're getting at. Are you going to catch up to 100 Years Quest? At some point. I'd like to do it soon. I'm trying to make more time to catch up to manga in my day-to-day schedule, so as soon as I do that, it's going to get read for sure. Juvia defeating Kius? Which one was he? Oh, okay, yeah. I remember that fight. Yeah, all of those fights were honestly pretty heavy. I like that arc. I like it more. I liked it more after I reread all of Fairy Tail than the first time I watched it in the anime. We got Izzy in the chat. What's going on, Izzy? How you doing? Jesus, I got jump scared by an ad. Yeah, I have the ad set to, I think it's set to like every, it's like every 15 to 20 minutes or so. By all means, chat. If you ever feel like the ads, like they pop up too often, let me know. The only reason I put the ads mid-roll in streams is because I want YouTube to push the streams. Otherwise, I would never put ads mid-roll in a stream because I hate when I'm watching a stream and it gets cut off. The way it's supposed to work is everyone's supposed to get it at the same time, but I'm not sure that's how that works. I could be wrong. Tartaros was always my favorite arc in that series. Tartaros is up there, but honestly, my favorite arc, I think, is the Battle of Fairy Tail. Like, those fights against Laxus are super good. Especially as short as it was, Laxus versus what was the Edalus version of Jelal? Not Siegfried, right? Am I crazy? Mystagon. Yeah, but what was Mystagon's real name? Wasn't his real name? No, wait, no. Mystagon is his name. Siegfried was Jelal's persona when he was in the council. And then, of course, there's Jelal. So it's Mystagon, Siegfried, and Jelal. Those are the three. Yeah, so there's Mystagon, Jelal, and then Jelal's like fake persona in the council was Siegfried. Mystagon was just yeah, I get that. Grand Magic Games is my favorite arc. I like that arc better after revisiting it. It's good. There are a lot of hype moments, but I feel like the ending was kind of just okay. Like, I don't know. I just felt like the execution of all the time travel stuff, and it was okay. I didn't really like how we went into that arc. The time skip felt to me. Basically, how that arc starts and how it ends is not great. Was not great for me, but like it has some of the most hype moments in the manga, so I can't discredit that arc. It's really good. Jelal, Siegfried, and Mystagon. That's how the mustache cult exists. Fair. Tartaros is the best arc Mashima has ever written. Ooh. That's a toughie when you have what was the arc in Eden Zero with what's his name? Shit. What was the war arc in Eden Zero with the like foil to Shiki? It's like right on the tip of my tongue. I just can't remember. Somebody said it before. I think my favorite fairy tale moment was the letter from Lucy's father. That's like one of my favorite moments. That's a great reminder of like how awesome Lucy was in early fairy tale, because everyone thinks about Lucy now and like they say she's a bad character because she's just fan service, which is not wrong. But back in early fairy tale, she was like one of the best characters. She got like all the like character development. Like her character development better than Gray's, if you ask me. Up there with Erza, but obviously Erza, you know, fan favorite. Obviously better than Natsu, because Natsu's character development is like, you know, what even is it, right? Like it's not bad, but it's minimal. Her character development out of the main four was the best. Yeah, so everyone's kind of like, now that we're talking about fairy tale, right? Like this is what happens, right? Minus minus Tartaros, which I brought up deliberately. Everyone's talking about, you know, Lucy and her dad, that's early fairy tale. Natsu versus Jell-All, that's early fairy tale, right? So the reason I want to talk about fairy tale is because so many people are willing to trash to, like, you know, 100 Years Quest, nobody cares, right? Especially the anime. The anime is mid. The 100 Years Quest anime is mid. The final arc of fairy tale was trash. Fake out deaths. Power of friendship. Power of friendship is like, if you don't like fairy tale, or you're trying to say fairy tale is bad, people just say power of friendship, and apparently that just undermines all the good stuff of fairy tale, right? Which is partially justified, because fairy tale is the biggest offender when it comes to abusing the power of friendship. That being said, if you look at the typical anime fan who's like in their mid-20s, right? Even 30s, right? Like early 30s, but like late 20s. Most people, even younger actually, so like mid-20s. Excuse me. Most people, their first anime, if it wasn't already Dragon Ball, One Piece, Bleach, or Naruto, right? Excuse me. Most people's like first official anime, like anime, excuse me, sorry. Anime was fairy tale, right? And the reason I say that is because, you know, if you get into anime and your first anime is Dragon Ball, a lot of people, they watch Dragon Ball and they don't watch anything else, right? Like they might watch Dragon Ball and My Hero Academia. You're still an anime fan. Pokemon too, right? Like let's say all you watch is Dragon Ball and Pokemon. You're an anime fan for the most part, but like you're not really an anime fan, you know what I mean? Like you if that's all you watch, then you literally know nothing about the industry. You just know those two shows. Same thing with the big three. If all you watch is One Piece and One Punch Man, or, you know, Naruto and My Hero Academia, or Bleach and Jujutsu Kaisen, you like anime, you just don't really watch anime. You only watch two shows, right? So fairy tale for a lot of people, particularly myself, was that first show that really got them into anime. Because a lot of people, if it wasn't your first, like your first anime, it was like your second anime. But it was that second anime where you're like, oh, like I don't just like Dragon Ball, I don't just like Pokemon, I don't just like Naruto, I like anime. Like I like all this stuff, right? And like that was kind of their real gateway anime into Magi, into Black Clover, into My Hero Academia, into I'm trying to think, Sword Art Online, right? That was popular at the time. All that stuff. So for a lot of people, I'd say at least half of the anime community, including all the old heads that like have been watching anime since the 80s, it's kind of hypocritical to say like how overrated fairy tale is when that was the anime that got you into anime. Now, granted, just because you watch a show and you liked it before doesn't mean like you now for the rest of your life have to say it's good or have to defend it, right? So I'm trying to think of an example. So I like Sword Art Online for the most part. That was another anime that I watched back in the day. And I thought it was like amazing when I first watched it. Minus the romance stuff. I wasn't a big fan of the romance. But like, obviously now that I've watched more anime, I'm like, yeah, it's still good, but it's got its issues. for me to go back and say it's overrated, it sucks, it was never good, right? That's really the one that like you hear people say it was never good. It's like, if that show was never good, then how the heck did you get an anime? Like if you watched Fairy Tail as like your first or second anime, and then you watch a bunch of other anime just to go back and say Fairy Tail was never that good, it's like, bro, you're lying to yourself. It was the first show that opened the door for you. It's a wild thing to say for like half of the fan base. Biggest issue was how repetitive the friendship stuff felt later on. We'll talk about that. There are a lot of niche YouTubers that debunk the friendship stuff in Fairy Tail. Name some of those YouTubers. I bet I could name 2, but if you have some other YouTubers that I probably haven't heard of, let me know. So my favorite character in 100 Years Quest is Ignia. So you mean Fairy Tail Senku? Because that's who he is. That's Fairy Tail Senku. They just took Senku and gave him dragon scales and dyed his hair red. Ignia from Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest is literally just Senku. Okay, take a picture of Ignia when he's introduced in his human form and put him next to Senku. Bro, they look like exactly the same. It's crazy. Not saying Mashima copied, but they're very close. The anime men tourist? I'll have to check that out. Fairy Tail Senku? Bro, pull it up. Pull it up. They look exactly the same. I feel like the final arc of Fairy Tail would have been better if it was fleshed out. Now, it would have just been better if Mashima had planned it out more. That was the thing. By that point, he was kind of just making it up as he went along. Exactly like you saw in Eden Zero, if you read Eden Zero. So like, it just wasn't fleshed out enough. It had the potential, and there, like, the pieces were there, but like the execution by the end of it was like, eh. Like that, honestly, I'm not a fan of the fight between Natsu and Zareth. I don't think it was good in the end. Have you not heard of the anime men? No, I've heard of the anime men, but they said, what did they say? The anime men tourist? So I didn't know if you meant some other channel, but if you're talking about the anime men, that's something different. But I didn't know. Have they done a Fairy Tail debunking video? Because based on their recent stuff, it seems like they would do the opposite. I recently started listening to Evil Puff. I'll have to check that out. Let me see. Every anime manga has rushed finales. Not true. Undead Unluck. Great ending. Dragon Quest Die. Great ending. People call them tourist. Yeah, that's fair. You know what though? It works. It works for them. What was it called? Evil Puff? What's my opinion on Black Clover? Black Clover is amazing. It's obviously not a 10 out of 10, but it's better than people give it credit for. And the final arc is awesome. I don't care what anyone says. Obviously, it's got its issues, but if certain creators want to say that the final arc is trash and it's littered with issues, then they're not fooling anybody. Evil Puff Fairy Tail. Here we go. Good Fairy Tail opinions. Best guy ever and his bad Fairy Tail takes. Interesting. Okay. Obviously, they're a smaller channel, but I'll have to check out some of their fairy tale videos. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I can see why there's still kind of a small channel. Some interesting takes on that channel for sure. I just feel the current Black Clover is dragging mainly because of the quarterly schedule. Yeah, that's the thing. If you read Black Clover, my advice, if the pacing is really bothering you, don't read the new chapters. That's my solution. Because when I read the current arc, so the Land of the Sun and then the whatever you want to call it, the final battle, when I read that from beginning to end, like binged it, right, at my own pace, that arc is so much better. This arc, I should say. So pacing issues can usually be solved if you stop reading every new chapter for a bit and you go back and read it at your own pace. Usually fixes it, particularly with One Piece. Before watching Fairy Tail, I thought it was some really bad work, but then I watched it myself. I realized that it wasn't as bad as it was described. The same thing happened with Bleach. Fairy Tail is one of those anime where now, because it has that reputation, you go in expecting it to be mid, and so like you don't give it a chance to be good. That was why so many people liked it back in the day, was because back in even 2014, anime was not mainstream. It was just catching on, but it was definitely not mainstream. So for a lot of people like myself, Fairy Tail, like they weren't thinking about the dark psychology and the power scaling and the character development. It was just a good show with fun characters with cool fights and a really awesome art style. And that's all you need for a good show. That's it. I think if Fairy Tail wouldn't have been hit with such heavy censorship, yeah, that was an issue, would have been slightly better. I think that depends. I feel like that's only an issue if you're a manga fan. But they did make some considerable changes for sure. At least aesthetically. Excuse me. It's not like they really changed all that much. What's going on, Oscar? How you doing? Good to see you. You're not too late. Thank goodness. You can stick around for a bit. Oscar, we're talking about Fairy Tail and how it's overhated and how it's really kind of weird to say it was never that good, considering half of the current generation of anime fans started out with Fairy Tail, and that's how they got into anime. So to say Fairy Tail was never that good is to say the reason they got into anime was stupid. I went into Fairy Tail when I was way more casual and I just liked having fun with it. That's the thing, you know. I think a good comparison to make to some of the newer stuff. So another reason I bring this up is because lately you've been seeing people say, you know, Shonen, they just keep making the same stuff over and over. It's, you know, anime, they just keep making the same thing over and over. All the protagonists are the same. So that's why people are like, you know, I want more protagonists like Okarun from Dawn to Dawn. I want more protagonists like Chihiro from Kagurabachi. I want more protagonists, I don't know, like Ichi from Ichi the Witch. Those protagonists are all good, and it's great that they're different, and I sincerely hope that we get more protagonists like them that are different. But I don't think you need main characters to be that way with every single anime. I think people are drastically overhyping these kinds of like deep characters. Even a character like Okarun. Okarun is awesome, but I would get so bored with anime if every main character was basically the same as Okarun. Okarun works because he's one half of a main duo. If he was the main character by himself, he would not be nearly as entertaining. Because what happens with Okarun is because of that dynamic he has with Momo, he gets drastically more interesting as the series goes on, right? But like if Dandadan was just about Okaroon and there was no Momo, Dandadan wouldn't be half as fun as it is to read. So the thing with Fairy Tail is like people trash on Fairy Tail because they say, someone in chat even said, and you know, no disrespect, but people say, you know, Fairy Tail's mid because Natsu is a flat character. He's boring. He's got no character development. He's naive. He has no goals, whatever, right? Insert whatever. All of his lines are power of friendship, right? The thing about a good story is it's okay to have the main character not be the best character. It's okay for all of the other characters to be way more interesting than the main character. All right? Like if you look at Kagurabachi, that is like the one exception to the general rule, excuse me, that people generally don't view the main character as their favorite character. Like in One Piece, excuse me. Excuse me. In One Piece, your favorite character is probably Zoro, Law, you know, maybe it's Blackbeard, maybe it's, I don't know, Yamato, whoever, right? Vivi, Nami, Robin. Luffy's good, but he's not everyone's favorite character. But with the series like Kagurabachi, I feel like most of the fan base would say Chihiro is their favorite character. So he kind of carries the cast to an extent. Obviously, that's not the case in Fairy Tail. A lot of people, Natsu is their favorite character, but I would say the majority of people would say Erza is their favorite character. Some people would say Gray. Some people would say Juvia. Some people might even say Lucy, right? And there's other characters that would come up. But my point is, people are conflating the issues where people are saying, you know, shonen anime, they keep making the same thing over and over. And then there's a separate issue of, you know, shonen anime, the main characters are boring. People conflate those to be the same issue, but they're not. You can have a really fun anime with an okay main character. And people don't recognize that when they talk about Fairy Tail. And it's a really underappreciated nuance of like fun stories. Like it's okay to have a character that, you know, isn't super deep or doesn't get like a ton of, you know, emotional progress, I guess. Gajeel, that's another one. Luffy's definitely not my favorite One Piece character, which is okay. One Piece is one of the best-selling stories of all time, so I don't think that makes Luffy a bad main character. Even Black Clover is kind of like that. I like Asta. I don't think he's my favorite character. I would say maybe Yami. Asta's definitely up there. I'd say he's like top 5. I don't know. That's a toughie. But yeah, I would say Black Clover's in that circle as well. Juvia. Juvia is awesome. I love Juvia. Juvia might actually be my favorite character, ironically. My favorite Fairy Tail characters are Laxus. Laxus is friggin' awesome. Erza, obviously. Jelal. Love that. Gajeel, and then Panther Lily. Very good. One Piece isn't a good example. Luffy is a top 5 character with the most fans who consider him their favorite on both Mal and Analyst. Top 5 character, but again, if you look at the popularity poll they did back in, they did it like either right before or right after COVID. One Piece global popularity poll. So Luffy was number 1. That's fair. I feel like with One Piece, it's really more 50-50. Because if you look at the generalized global poll, Luffy comes out as number 1, and then you have Zoro, Nami. But if you look at the regional polls, for like half of the world, Luffy was like number 2 or 3, and it was a lot of like Zoro, there was a lot of Law. So that general poll doesn't tell the whole story. But Oscar, you still make a good point. It's not the best example. All other One Piece characters are below him, even though he might seem different from what people say. A lot of people actually consider him their favorite character. Yeah, no, I don't want to misrepresent his popularity. He's easily one of the most popular characters in One Piece. In fact, he's the face of One Piece, right? And not only that, I think most people, when they think One Piece, they think Luffy, right? He's a more popular main character than other series, for sure. But it's still true that, like, that's not the case for everybody. Would you say that Senku is most people's favorite Dr. Stone character? I would say if you had a room of 10 Dr. Stone fans, I'd say it's like 50-50-ish, maybe 60-40 in favor of Senku. To be technical, Natsu is not even the strongest character in Fairy Tail, but yet people will still complain about his fights. Why most characters he fought are on his level. Like, dude, he's not Goku. That's the thing about Natsu being the, like, main character of Fairy Tail. Because Natsu was never, like, the categorical, like, objective main character. It was always, like, between him and Lucy, especially in the early story. But as we got bigger, badder fights, he took on more responsibility as the leader, narratively, right? Obviously, Erza is more so the leader of the group, but she doesn't really carry the lion's share of the responsibility when it comes to the narrative. She doesn't really drive the plot, is a good way to put it. But the issue of that is Mashima wants to keep it so that Natsu is supposed to be weaker than Erza, weaker than Laxus, weaker than X other characters. But then he still has to write the fights so that he comes out on top in the arcs. So it's like, what do you do there? A lot of people say Fairy Tail is an ensemble series. What do you mean by that? Features multiple main characters? Yes and no. No one character carries the whole narrative, so to that extent, it's true. I think in early Fairy Tail, it was like 50-50 Natsu and Lucy, kind of like Rave Master. And then what Eden Zero would become afterward. But I think about halfway or maybe a third into Fairy Tail, it became basically Natsu. So it's like, it kind of juggles both things. I don't know if I'd say Dr. Stone is character driven like Fairy Tail is. Yeah, Fairy Tail is more character driven. Dr. Stone has a good mix of like being plot driven, but also is very much character driven as well. Back to Dondadon, first the Kito family, then Evil Eye, and now Vamola is having her moment soon. So can we expect Kinta to get his soon? I have thoughts on that, but we'll save it. I'll address that, but I want to wrap up any lingering points about Fairy Tail. If Fairy Tail showed up earlier next to One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach, it would have been a fourth member as the big four. Well, so One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach came out like very early 2000s, and I think Fairy Tail was like 2004. So it didn't come out that much longer. It didn't come out that much later than those three. The issue was it wasn't Shonen Jump. It was Weekly Shonen Magazine. So it got a lot of sales, but because that was still the early 2000s, manga was still like building that global fan base. It was just reaching outside of Japan at that point, right? It was at that time that we were just getting more access to translations. So even to read a manga that wasn't Weekly Shonen Jump was next to impossible, unless it was like a very popular series. Gray is definitely a fan favorite character. I don't like him as much as the other characters. I feel like he's one of the less interesting characters out of the main group, but I still think he's pretty cool for sure. To put it another way, I actually like Juvia more than Gray. The anime wasn't there, wasn't as available as the other three, also true. But let's talk about Dawn to Dawn, because we have a few minutes left, so I want to talk about Dawn to Dawn, especially since we got a new episode today. These last few last few chapters of Dawn to Dawn are nostalgic because of how many old characters get their moment. Yeah, Tatsu's been really good about that. It's like, it was weirdly unexpected, but very much welcome surprise. Do I plan on making another video on Windbreaker? Probably not, only because the hype for that series kind of died out after that first season. Maybe in another stream we can talk about it. I will say this, since you brought it up. I like the second season way more, like dramatically more than the first season. So Windbreaker gets my thumb of approval. But yeah, so Oscar was asking, so Gigi got his moment in Evil Eye as well. Vamola is getting her moment. Do we think Kenta will get his? Kenta already kind of got his moment. The thing about Kenta is maybe not development wise, but as far as like being an MVP, he's a big player in just about every fight he's in. Obviously, he was a big player in the Space Globalists arc. Excuse me. He wasn't there for the Don Mara arc, so obviously that was a thing. I can't remember what his contribution was, if anything, in Rin's arc, where they had to like resolve her backstory. That arc is kind of a blur to me for obvious reasons. But then obviously in this current arc, you know, he just teamed up with Okaroon and he got like a cool new transformation, sort of. The thing with Kenta is his potential to contribute to a fight is literally limitless. He can literally, Tatsu can literally do whatever he wants with Kenta. I think the main thing people are wondering with Kenta is Tatsu gonna flesh him out as a character and develop him beyond just the pervy otaku, like the self-conscious otaku? Because Evil Eye and GG got character growth that was very much needed, in my opinion. Vamola is getting kind of a moment, but I don't really, she already had like a super deep backstory, so I don't think we're really gonna get anything now. And she's also been like growing in the background. So I don't know. Who else? Did you ask about anybody else? I don't know about Kinto. I feel like that kind of depends on how Tatsu views his character. Like if he just views him as purely like comic relief, then I wouldn't expect anything. But considering how his approach to Dandadan has very much been every character gets to be the hero of their own story, I feel like he'll get something down the line. Because a prime example of this was Queen Sensei. I don't think anybody expected Queen Sensei to come back in the story the way she did. And she ended up being like a total badass when she came back. So I think Kinto will get something. I just don't know to what extent and when it's going to happen. So Marocat brought up Sighart from Rave Master. If you want to talk about top fights in all of anime and manga, Sighart's fight against the, what was it, the village of mages or the city of mages, and then it turned into his fight against like the one evil mage that was like supposedly the most powerful mage in the world. That particular fight, weirdly enough, I don't think it really gets talked about. That's like one of my all-time favorite fights in manga. When I read that fight, I was like, what the shit? They fought for... So first, I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't read Rave Master, but the feats that Sighart accomplishes in that fight, unless there's something in like Magi, even compared to Jujutsu Kaisen, are unparalleled. His feats in that fight are unparalleled. It's crazy how good that fight is. But yeah, that's... Somebody's talking about the Z fighters, their character treatment. Yeah, that's a discussion for another stream for sure. Ironic because people are hating on Windbreaker Season 2 for really stupid things. Gee, I wonder why. I'm glad that at least your dislikes have decreased. Honestly, I feel like all my dislikes basically went away because I had a shift of perspective where I kind of just stopped taking the show seriously. And I mean that in the most positive way possible. I was taking that show seriously like I took Tokyo Revengers seriously, which obviously Tokyo Revengers, it's not that deep, but like Tokyo Revengers, the reason that it's still one of my favorite series is because that's like a coming of age story. Like at its root, that's a story about kids, you know, when they're outside of school, when they're riding bikes together, when they're playing sports together, when they're going over to each other's houses, going to the beach together, and like just being boys, right? Like just the boys, right? Everyone can relate to that. Even, you know, if you're a girl, girls have that to an extent in their own way, and everyone can relate to that. And the thing with Windbreaker is it's just not, beyond the character development and the way they flesh out the characters, it's just not based in reality in any way, shape, or form. So if you expect it to be like a grounded series beyond the character growth, it's just... I mean this, again, I sound like I'm hating on it, but I mean this in the most positive way. You have to watch Windbreaker almost with the perspective that it is a fantasy. Like, it's just not real. It's not. But it's a good story. So, that's what did it for me. And once I did that, the story got so much better. I think my one criticism of Windbreaker that still holds is like, I don't know what the manga equivalent is because I haven't read the manga, but like 6 episodes into the first season, you're already in a tournament arc. At least My Hero Academia waited a whole full season to get to a tournament arc. And even then there was like proper setup. Windbreaker just like drops a tournament arc in the middle, like just like, oh, boom, tournament arc. Some kid started a street fight and boom, tournament arc. Isn't Windbreaker more about gangs fighting on streets? Yeah, but like it's so over the top, and like the kids really don't even go to school. At least in Tokyo Revengers, like the kids had like homework and stuff, and like you actually saw them go to school. In Windbreaker, like they don't even do homework. Like they don't have kid problems. And you know, it's just it's crazy. Windbreaker is better than Tokyo Revengers every day for the protagonist himself. See, I'm the opposite. I like Takamichi better than Sakura, but that's okay. Like I recognize that a lot of people like Windbreaker better, and that's fine. I'm also only 2 seasons in, which is only 24 episodes, so I get that my opinion is not as well informed as other people. Yeah, that's the thing. Windbreaker really isn't about the street fighting. Like there's very crazy over the top action, but it's really not about the street fighting. But that's going to be it for today's stream now that we've kind of steered away from Fairy Tail. Thank you everybody. We had a great turnout as always. So this weekend is going to be not what I planned as far as videos. I had planned some Dawn to Dawn videos, but I was a week early to what I was expecting. For anybody who's caught up on the manga, I was expecting a certain scene, which I think everybody knows what I'm alluding to. I was expecting a certain brand new character to get revealed in this week's episode, but I was a week early, which is fine because now I can just upload the videos next week. But that means I have to switch around the schedule of my videos. So I had planned to do 2 videos a week starting this weekend, but that'll start next week. This week there's only going to be 1 video, which will be either tomorrow or Saturday, and then next week the schedule is going to be kind of weird because it's going to be like Thursday, Friday, and then Sunday, Monday. But after that, it'll be every like Monday and Friday or Saturday. But yeah, expect a video either tomorrow or Saturday. And then we will stream Monday for Dawn to Dawn. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks everybody, and I will see you Monday.